Hey guys, welcome to the daily recap video. Very interesting price action this morning. Price was a little bit incisive, if that's correct, out in English. Price was not sure, in my opinion, and still not sure which way it will go, but this is when we can use lower time frames and you can use edge in the market, which means when we are not sure, we can just buy or sell if it's according our trading plan, of course, not forcing, but we can buy or sell and just be risk free and let price show us the true intentions. So I will explain better what I mean. But on the daily time frame here, we have a boss, right? According the way I mark structured and a lot of us in Photon, after this week break, we didn't have this was not a strong high, but after 2 days we can see that price closed below. So this is a high right here, and now this is the low. We are in super discount prices. We can see that here is super discount. Something also that I want to talk about, I'm not here looking left and trying to understand which zone will play out. I just I just prefer to react and don't predict. What I mean by this is I'm not trying to look which one will hold. I just let the market make a strong reaction, even if it's like a 4-hour chalk, M15 boss, or even M15 chalk. I just want a strong reaction and I look left. I justify that reaction with a valid demand. So in this situation, it was this one. But I'm not here trying to predict which one will hold. I just wait for the strong reaction to happen and then I look left. So also interesting to say that. So on the daily time frame, we can see we're in super discount. We have a strong high and we have a weak low, right? Nothing more than that. 4 hour. So this one is interesting. Here, okay, 4 hour time frame. We can see that on the 4 hour, for me, the swing high and the swing low is also the same. This is the high, right? And this is the low, because you can see that we both bearish here. At this point in time, we have it was Monday morning. Price was, we can see here, but it's M15 demand. And after the change of character here, that gave us the indication that possibly, we're not sure yet, but possibly after this change of character, this high, right, becomes weak because it failed to take out the low. What we have here is something like this. After the change of character here on the 4 hour, we can assume this high failed to take out the low, because in theory, this should go to the downside. It's something like this, right? It failed after the change of character, and we also know that this is I will show you on M15, but this is M15 leg, right? And we never reach a good area of value. So knowing that we never reach a good area of value, knowing that we both bearish on the 4 hour, we expect a pullback after the boss, and this change of character, I was very interested in looking for buys, assuming this high here is probably weak. However, we go to M15 and understand better what can happen and to protect ourselves and edge, because the sells were also very high probability. So, but basically on the 4 hour, what I was trying to show you guys is we know that after the break of structure, right, we expect a pullback. So after this break of structure, we expect a pullback. We look left, this one was justified by a clean demand on the left, so I can justify this reaction, which is super important, because if it's not rejecting anything, I personally don't look to get involved. And then, not only that, we can see that this is on the M15, but we can see that we never reach a good area of value. We have this massive buy side liquidity that can easily be targeted. So usually price this type of highs, usually when you have something like this, usually not always, but don't put new lower lows. A lot of the times this one get run, and after getting run we then put a lower low, and what happens, we have a sweep of liquidity, right? So I'm not very convincing these highs can put a new lower low. However, they can also give us a strong indication on M15 that we can also take advantage of a control 10 a pullback, because a pullback with 2 pips stop loss can give you 10R easily, right? So that's the idea when I came to the charts on the Monday morning. After the change of character, I was expecting this high to be weak, but I also aware of M15 that we can see a pullback here, and a pullback can be worth it, right? Because with 2 pips stop loss or 1.5, so it's worth it in my opinion. Going to the M15 here. Let me just show you something. Okay, so we have this strong high, right, on the M15, and the strong and weak low. Let me just, if you guys remember, we had something like this on the previous week. You can see the photon analysis if you want a better understanding of this M15 structure. This is the high, this is the low. I put premium DC versus discount, so I understand that we never came from a good area of value. And what's happened? Price put something like this: internal lower highs, lower lows, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. And at this moment, we have a shift from lower lows and lower highs to higher highs and possibly higher lows, right? So at this moment, I was starting to get interesting on the buys, because I have the indication that probably this high failed to take out the low. So I'm happy to take a buy from here, knowing that this high is likely to get run. And we can see how this liquidity has been built. So for me, it's very high probability, and still is, to look for buys. However, I also need to understand that how can I protect myself, where price can go against me, and if can I hedge. Perfect, because we have something like this, right? And at this point in time, price is rejecting, if you mark, for example, something like a supply chain, right? Something like this, and then something like this, and something like this. So this one is the last place where, if price is going to the downside, is going from here. So for me, this is the last change that price can actually move to the downside, or price actually just using this the chain, right? Sorry, a little bit more clean, but you can see that price is only using this supply chain at this point in time, not only to move to the downside, but actually facilitate the pullback to then mitigate the demand and actually move to the upside. So in this situation, for me, we have two possible ideas that I explain on the markups. I'm not sure at this point in time, after the supply range shift from supply to demand, sorry, from bearish to bullish, I was not sure if this will actually put a new high, or if this is just an indication that price will pull back to mitigate the last piece of the supply chain and actually go to the downside. So I'm interested in looking for buys, but I'm also interested in looking for sells, because I'm not sure which one will happen, and in the market sometimes it's not very clear. So, but you can still be profitable when the market and the conditions are not clear. So yeah, that's why I was looking to take the sells, understanding that this is following the supply chain, is the last place supply should hold if price will continue to the downside. And if it didn't continue to the downside and just provide the pullback, right, to then continue up, I'm more than happy to get involved here if we have an M1 clean entry, because from here to here it's more than 10R. Okay, so I'm happy to do that. So going to the M1 time frame. So okay, so here price reached the absolute extreme of the range, right? When price reached the absolute extreme of the range, I was already looking for M1 price action when we reach something over here, because it was rejecting M15 POI, but it never gave me the entry model that I looked for. When price reached the extreme, if the pullback will happen, it will happen from here, because like I said on M15, supply chain still in control. So if this will going to make a pullback, it's probably going to make from here. If price breaks above, the supply chain is broken, and it's much more indication that the high will get run. But at this point in time, supply was chain was still holding, and this M1 entry was super clean. Entry model, liquidation, the flip, right? With the fail reaction, the V shape, everything is here. The flip did not swap liquidity, but it's already mitigating the extreme, so for me it makes sense to get involved in here. So you can, let me put it to cover the high. So for me this is a very clean entry. If you use 2 pip stop loss, you probably get involved, you still can get involved. So you enter, if you enter on the EQ, I believe, right, you can still get involved. For me this was a perfect trade. I personally entered with 1.2, right, because I used the seconds, I entered down here. 10R is my target, but I also expect, like I said, I'm still looking to play the longs, even though I don't trade New York, but if I was still interested in taking the long. So the first target can be 10R, but in terms of the structure and supply and demand, I would be very interested in this in this demand, right? Or you can just start being a little bit more aggressive when we reach this entire range. But on the M1, for me this was a very clean entry, and there was actually another entry that I took, but it was after doing my markup, and that's why I'm doing the video a little bit late, because I took another entry and was looking at the charts. So at this point in time, right, we have this move up, down, this a little bit small, right, but you can see that actually you have a strong break, right? This move down completely break all these demand ranges. So for me this was a no-brainer entry. And when you look in isolation, you have something like this, right? You have here, not sure if you can see here, but we have here the small chop, right? So when price broke below here the change of character, I had the indication that this low is actually weak and failed to take out the high. So for me, after this change of character and knowing the low is weak and failed to take out the high, I was interested in looking to get involved. So for me, the flip that swept liquidity was the most evident, right? Something like, for me, the most evident flip was this one. So this, to be completely honest, is not a high probability trade, but because I already entered here with 1.2 when the 10R was already met, so I was already with profit. I am happy to get involved again. And it's the same entry model. You have the flip that swept liquidity, so you can take the flip instead of looking for the extreme. And if you go one step further, you can understand that actually the flip was actually the most high probability scenario, because we have something like this. So if price breaks above here, in my opinion, this high technically become weak, because when do I know that the high is weak and fail to do its job? You can use the change of character, which is the first sign, but the true sign is not only the change of character, but when the supply that is in control here is broken. So when this range, right, from here to here is broken, this is when I have the indication that this high is technically weak. So for me, if I was assuming the high was going to hold, this was the last place. I know it's can be a little bit confusing, but it's the way I trade, and I hope you can take a value from it. So I took 2 trades. Probably will do a trade recap to explain even better. I want this to be a little bit smaller, because New York is almost there, so I want you guys to see this before that. I took this sell and I took this sell, and it was a nice flip from through sweep right? And I was expecting the low to get run after this change of character. I'm planning a little bit to do I want to do a small forecast, right, to New York session. Even though this can actually go to the downside from here, because this we can see that supply chain was in control, like I explained in the video in the beginning. I'm also interested, if I was trading New York, to look for buys somewhere around here, but just be aware that if I have, for example, here double up, down, even though I can take based on M1 entry model, M1 entry, right, this high will only be confirmed as weak when we break this one. When we break this small supply range, that's when I have confirmation that this high is technically weak. So you can still take this long, but be aware that nothing confirmed until this one that we have achieved in the flow. So this is nothing confirmed until this small range gets taken out. So if you take a long, manage accordingly, because we don't assume it will change until it does. So what can happen is price just continues keep moving down. Just make sure to trade to take partials at this level. And yeah, that's the forecast for New York. It played out perfectly according to the London analysis, and yeah, maybe a little bit different from you how you trade, but yeah, the goal from Photon is for you to find your own way based on all the tools that we give you, and that's what myself and David did, and yeah, it works. So hope you have a nice day, and if you have any questions, feel free to send me a message.